When we're done, it's going to look something like this. Let's do it. So right here, we got our inspiration. First thing we're going to do, we're going to build this header right here. So we're going to come over here. We got a blank Next.js page. First thing we're going to do, turn this div into a main. We're going to say class, flex, call. And we're going to come in here and we're going to add a header. And inside of this header, we're going to add a nav. So for this header, we're going to say class BG red 500. And we're going to say width full. And we're going to come up here to this main. We're going to say width full. And we're going to say min height screen. And then we're also going to say BG blue 200. Okay, so we can see what's going on right here. This header's not showing up because we need to say a height of 16. I'm actually going to give this a height of 20. We can also come down here and remove this part. And so this header is going to be flex. And in the header, we're going to have a nav and we're going to have a button. And this button is going to say sign up. And we're going to say, and in this nav, we're going to have some things. We're going to have a bunch of buttons. So we'll just add one for now that says review. So we're also going to come up to this header and we're going to say items center. And we're going to say justify between. And we'll also say a PX of 4. So we can come down to this button right here and we can say class. We can say BG emerald 500. We'll actually go 700 and we'll say text white. We'll say height of 10, width of 36. We'll actually go 28 and we'll say rounded full. So it looks like we should actually make this header a little bit taller. So instead of a height of 20, we'll say height 24. That looks pretty good. And then we'll also get rid of this BG red and get rid of this BG blue 200. And so now in this nav, let's see, we have review trips alerts contact us. So review trips alerts contact us. So we got review trips alerts contact us. And then we also have the, what we'll say, trip mate. And so this nav will say class flex and we'll say gap of 10. And then for this trip mate, we'll say class, we'll say text emerald 700. So then we're also going to wrap trip in a P tag and then mate also in a P tag. And we'll say leading of 7. Actually, we're going to do a leading of 3 to reduce the line height. We'll go 5. Let's go 4. And then we're also going to go text XL. Let's actually go text 2XL. We'll say font bold. We'll go actually semi-bold. And then we're going to say text start. And instead of this leading of 4, we'll go leading of 5. Also, I'm going to come up to this header, and instead of a PX of 4, we're going to go PX of 8. Also, on this nav, instead of gap of 10, we'll go gap 12. And so now what we're going to do is set it up so that when the screen is smaller, we'll get a hamburger drop-down menu. So right here, we'll say hidden, and then at small, we'll say flex, and then get rid of this flex. And so now this left part right here is going to disappear when it gets smaller. So come down here and say npm I lucid-react to download the icon library. Once you do that, we can type in menu and import this from Lucid React and then say class and we'll say sm hidden. And so now this thing is going to be right here until we get to small and then this is going to pop up. So we can also say px of 4 and then when it gets to small, we'll have a px of 8. We'll actually say when this gets to medium, we'll have a px of 8. And then we can also come to this menu and we can say size 10. And so now it's going to do this. And so if this were an actual website, most likely what you would want to do instead of making these buttons, you would want to make these links that go to a certain URL on your website. But for this, we're just going to call these buttons. So now below the header, we're going to have a div. We're going to have a class name. We're going to say flex. We're going to say BG red 500. We're going to say width full. And we're going to say height full. We're going to say flex 1. We're also going to say a max width of 5XL. So when we make this large, it's going to do that, but now we want to center this. So we're going to come up to the main and we're going to say, what we're actually going to do is rename this main to a div. And then we're going to wrap this div right here in a main. And then we're going to say class, and we're going to say flex call, and we're going to say items center. We're also going to say flex 1 and width full. And so now when this gets larger, this red part is going to stay centered. And so we can also make this, instead of 5XL, 6XL. We can actually go 7XL. So we can get rid of this background red, and we can come into this div. And on the left side, we're going to have this, and then on the right side, we're going to have this. So we can create another div, and then in here, we'll put an H1 that says explore the horizon with us. And we can come into this div, we can say class, we can say flex 1. We'll say BG red 400. And then beneath this, we'll have another div. We're going to say class flex 1, and we'll say BG blue 200. And inside of this div, we can have an image tag, and we're going to say source of /travel image 1.jpg. And if you want this image, the GitHub repo is in the description. So now we can get rid of this background blue and this background red. And for this image, we can say a class name, we can say height full, and we can say object cover. Actually, instead of height full, we can say size full. And so now if this thing enlarges, it's going to go like this. Also, if the screen gets small, I'm just going to simply remove this image. So on this div right here, we can say hidden, and then small, we'll say block. And so now it's going to be hidden. Once it gets to small, it's going to be block. Actually, we'll say medium, it goes to block. So now when it gets to medium, this will appear. That's pretty much it for this side. So now we're going to do this side. So we're going to come into this div, and we're going to say px of 4. And then for this H1, we can say a class name, and we can say text 5XL. We'll actually go 6XL. And then we'll say font semi-bold. And in order to make sure that the words are always like this, where it says explore the, and then horizon with us beneath it, what we can do is wrap this horizon with us in a span tag. Actually, we'll wrap this in a P tag. And so now it's always going to stay like that. Also on this div, I'm going to say a PY of, we'll go 10. Actually going to go 12. So beneath this H1, we'll have a div. And in this div, we'll have a P tag that says, what are you looking for? And with this div, we'll do a class name, and we'll say margin top of 20. And then we can also come in this P tag and say class. We can say text large, font semi-bold. And then beneath this P tag, we can have a div that is flex. And then in this div, we're going to map through some things. So we're going to create an array called tags. And then we're going to say map for each tag. I want to return a tag component. So we need to come up here, and we need to say const tags equals an array. And it's going to be travel stories, vacation rentals, things to do, hotels, restaurants, and then more. So now what we need to do is create this component. So we'll create a new file in the components folder called tag.tsx, and then we'll say rfce, and then we'll come into this page and we'll import this from component/tag. And so now we're going to get this, and we're going to pass the tag into the tag component. So we come back over here to tag, and we say tag in squiggly braces, and then we say is going to be this type right here. And so now we can come in here and we can say tag. And so now it's going to show it like that. And so first thing we want to do is make this flex wrap. And so now what that does, instead of making them all on the same line, if it overflows the line, it goes down to the next one. And so now we can style this tag a little bit. So we can say border of gray 400. We also have to say border. We can say rounded full. We can say PX of 4. and we can say a height of 12. We'll actually say a height of 10. Then we can say flex item center, and I'm going to say a gap of 4. We'll actually do a gap of 2. And then also what I'm going to do is I'm going to say get the index from right here, and I'm going to pass in the index to the tag. So we're going to come in here and get the index, and I'm actually going to create a type called props that is going to have the tag string and index number. And so now we can get rid of this and just say props. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say a backtick with a squiggly brace and do this to both sides. On this side, it's got to be squiggly brace backtick. And so now I come in here, I say $ squiggly brace index triple equals 0 double ampersand, and then say BG yellow 500. And so now the first one's going to be yellow. And so you can use Lucid React icons to add some icons to this. We don't have enough time to set that up, so we're just going to move on to this bottom part right here. So beneath this div, we're going to have another div, and we're going to say class name, and we're going to say margin top of 10, and we're going to create a component called input. So we're going to come back here to components, create a file called input.tsx rfce, and then right here we're going to say type, and then we're going to say type is of type string. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say type props, and I'm going to say type, and it's going to be either location, check-in, return, or travelers. And so now we can come here and replace this with props. So come back to the page and import this input from components. I actually put this in the wrong folder, so let me move this. So now right here we have type, and this first one is going to be location, and then we'll go 1, 2, we'll go 4 of these. We'll say check-in, return, and then travelers. And so what we can do right here is say grid, and we can say grid calls to, and now we can go to this input and we can start to style this. So I'm actually going to change this to the capital L. This is going to be exactly what it's going to say instead. So let's change all of these and then come back to this page and fix these. So now we come back to this input, and inside of this div, we can have a p tag that is going to say type. And then beneath that, we're going to have an input that are all going to be of type text. And for now, we'll just say a class name, we'll say BG red 500. And for this div, we'll say class name, we'll say BG blue 200. We can also come back to this page, and this div with the grid, we can say a gap of 2. We'll actually go 4. And so we can come back to this input component, and we can say rounded of XL. We'll say a padding of 4. Now we can get rid of this blue part, and then we can get rid of this red part, and we can say border. We can say border. We actually say border dash B, and then come up to this div and say border. And then we can also say font bold. So now when we come here and we type something in, it's going to be bold font. And with this input, we can say a margin top of 2. And for this p tag, I'm going to say text gray 400. And I'm going to say text SM. And also on this div, I'm going to say shadow XL. We'll actually change that to medium. And also using Lucid icons, you can add the icons right here. So now let's see what this thing does as it changes size. So I'm actually not going to show, when I'm done with this, I'm going to make it so that it doesn't show this image until the screen becomes large. So we can come back to this page and we can say a button. Class name, we say BG Emerald 700. We say width full. And then inside of it, we say explore now. And we can say text white, say rounded full, margin top of 4, and we'll say a height of 10. We can also add some shadow of small. And then beneath this, we're going to have a div that's going to be flex. And inside of this div, we're going to have 2 more divs that are both flex. And on all these, we're going to say item center. On this main one, though, we're going to say justify between. And so we can copy this down. We're going to have 2 of the exact same divs. And the first one, we're going to import a star icon from Lucid React. And then we're going to have a p tag that says 900K plus reviews on Trustpilot. And then we're going to have a chevron right from Lucid React. And then right here, we can say gap of 2. And then for now, we're just going to go margin top of 20. But I'm going to fix this in a second so it automatically goes to the bottom. In this other div, we're going to have some social icons. But we're just going to use the Lucid React for this. So we'll just do some random things. We'll just go move right. We'll say flag icon. We'll go loader. And then we'll do one more. We'll do home icon. And we'll say gap of 4. And so now we want this to automatically go all the way to the bottom. So in order to make this thing go all the way to the bottom, we're going to come to this div right here, which is the div surrounding all of this right here. And we're going to say flex call. And then we're going to come down to this div right here. And instead of margin top 20, we're going to say margin top auto. And so now the one last thing we're going to do is we're going to say when this becomes large, this image is going to be shown. And so now this thing is looking tip top. And one more thing I'm going to do is this max width 7XL, I'm going to get rid of that. And so now it's going to look like this. So one last thing we can do is make these inputs maximum width. So just come to this input and say width full. And so now this is going to span the entire distance of these divs. So there it is. If you learned something, subscribe. You want to learn some more? Watch this video right here. See you next time.